Got it.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
so excited to finally meet you.
I know. Me too. I mean, we've been like DMing back and forth forever, so I feel like I already know you.
I know. Okay, so first of all, here's what I had in mind. I would like you to tell my audience, because I have a different audience than a lot of your other podcasters and all the things that you've been interviewing with. I've watched YouTube ones, the whole nine yards. But I have a totally different audience. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Tell me who you identify yourself with. Like,
Who I identify myself with?
yeah, what do you identify yourself as? Like an actor, I mean, an actress,
Right.
a wife, a mother, a writer. You're so
Mhm.
many things. But
Yeah, that I think that's the thing. I used to put titles to my names. So I would be an actress, a director, a producer, then now an author and writer, a wife, a mother now, which I can't believe that I am. But I also think the main thing is like I am a human among humans. So I try to just go by that because anytime I put a title to myself, it separates me from other people. So I feel like now I'm just trying to just be present with who I am. So I'm just me, which sounds silly at the same time. But yeah, I have a lot of
I
professions.
don't think so, because I have a lot going on too. And when somebody asks me that question, I'm like, I'm a wife, I am a mother,
Mhm.
I am an entrepreneur, I am a podcaster, I'm a life coach. I
Yeah, I mean, those are the things like I forgot podcast host. I forgot I
yeah.
forgot all these other things because I work with celebrity clients for sex and love addiction that people don't know about. And I've been working, that's like a people don't know I do that on top. I have a lot of clients.
And
And
also,
so
aren't you working like doing some stuff for the Army? Didn't I
yeah,
read somewhere?
I work with the USO and I've done
Right.
tours over Afghanistan and Iraq and I be of service to them. I go visit bases. I've done that for a couple of years. Yeah. So I'm very the military and animal shelter. So yeah.
Okay. So this is just Brianne. So
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
So what's one thing that
Mhm.
you wish, we're going to talk about the book. Okay.
Okay.
So what's one thing that you wish you would have known before you started writing the book?
Oh God, that's like a lot. I think the first thing is when I wrote it, I actually never thought anything was going to happen with it. It was actually more like a bet from my husband, which I've talked about. He kept bothering me to take this writing class because my friend Jana Kramer and I were pitching this show about sex and love addiction all over town. And what was happening was people were changing the concept of the show and I was getting frustrated and my husband's like you have these stories that need to be told now and you're waiting for someone to tell you yes, so take this writing course. And I kept being like, leave me alone, I'm dyslexic, I have ADHD, I'm not a writer, I'm an actor, I have no interest. So when I finally say yes and I took this 90-day writing course, I wrote the first draft as a memoir in 45 days. So I just put everything in it. Like it wasn't even me, it felt like writing it. So I just went, and then when I was doing the rewrites with my editor and stuff, I just all this imagination, other people's stories after a decade of recovery, I just put everything in there and I made it fiction. So no one can sue me, no one can like come
Right.
after me, I'm not
Right.
breaking anybody's anonymity. You don't know which stories are mine or other people's. But here's the thing, when I started doing interviews, when I recorded the audiobook, which I didn't want to, I realized, oh crap, all this stuff is out there and people don't know what stories are mine. So they're going to form their own perception. And I have to keep reminding people it's fiction. You don't know it's fiction. So, it bothered my mom a little bit. People close to me were like, whoa, I didn't know that happened to you. So I think when I first wrote it, I didn't realize like once you put all your crap out there, all the horrible things you've done, you've thought you've almost done, that there was going to be a little bit of a backlash, a little bit. I have to be honest. And I lost a really good friend over the book.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's
we
kind of
were
their
friends.
problem.
It is their problem. And I know that now, like God takes care of me, higher power takes
Yeah.
care of me. It's something when you own your truth that you hold up a mirror for other people to own their truth. And I think sometimes it's too difficult, which I totally understand. But yeah, I didn't realize like that outcome could happen, you know? So
I
that's what I wasn't
remember,
prepared for.
I remember right after it started that you um, kind of got your feelings hurt because you saw some negativity and you really had
Mhm.
to work on that. That, you know what, no matter what any of us do or say, whatever, somebody's going to have something negative to say, and we just have to let
Yeah.
it go.
Yeah, I got my first bad review. It was devastating. It was,
Right.
they were upset it wasn't pure memoir. They didn't like that I wrote it in the style. Like it's a long share. It's like in our program, you have long shares. I speak all over the world. So you talk for an hour about your story. And I wanted the main character, Roxanne, to tell the first year of her recovery in sex and love addiction and how hard it is and how much so much of our society struggles with it. And I really wanted it to be universal and to have somebody sit there and say, it's not memoir. I don't like the writing style. It just was really heartbreaking. But then I had to take myself out of it and be like, this book wasn't actually for me. It was for me to
Right.
be of service to other people. And it's not really about me. And people are allowed to have their opinions and it has nothing to do with me.
That's
So
right.
that was a learning process too, which as an actor, I'm used to rejection, bad reviews. I've been an actor, working actor for 20 years, and you would think I would have like a thick skin, but
But
when it's
this was
my
a whole
truth,
different thing. This was a whole
totally.
different thing. So,
Yeah.
okay, so what do you feel was your biggest failure, if there was one? And if so, what did you learn from it?
That is so crazy that you asked that because as an addict, I feel like a failure all the time.
Really?
Yeah, that's the tragedy of having an addict mind that we look at situations and we twist them where they didn't work out to our expectation or my fantasy of what a situation should look like. And I have to constantly remind myself, like, no matter what I do in this world, the whole inside of me, it's never enough. And I have to constantly work on just self love, being enough, just being, and that everything I do is in service of other people. And when I look at it that way, I'm a huge success. Like I help people on a daily basis. I'm of service. I'm
Absolutely.
authentic. But I would say the main failure was, I guess, living so long thinking outside things were going to fix me.
Right.
Like, I feel like I wasted so much of my 20s, like looking for this career. The moment I was on a billboard, I thought it was, I was going to be full. Like when I got my first series, all that stuff, it was like, it was so empty because I was so empty. Like you
Right.
cannot look at outside things to fix you, no much how much your career, money in the bank, a husband, a son, or whatever. So I feel like I failed in that sense, but then I wouldn't be where I am. So it's not a
Exactly.
failure.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, what is your favorite chapter in the book?
Oh my God. Okay. So my favorite chapter to write and rewrite is chapter 8. I just love
Mine
that
too.
chapter.
I love it
Oh, good.
too. I was like, I wonder if she'll pick the same one as me. I mean, I have
I do.
chapter 3 is good, really good.
Mm-hmm.
The whole book's good, but chapter 8
Aw.
is my favorite. What's a favorite about that to you?
I don't know. I think that specific chapter, I was writing like a movie and a television show. So I was visualizing as a director and a storyteller what it would look like on camera. So when I got to write it, I really immersed myself in the visuals. So that was exciting. And I love chapter 11. Every time I read that chapter or read it for someone, I always end up crying at the
Me
end.
too.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that one's a good one. And the ones I hate, which I hated rewriting chapter 5, 6, and 7 because it was like
Yeah.
looking back at the why, adulting up, compare and despair. Because those are all like character defects that still live with me. So I
Well,
hated
that
it.
would
That
be
was like
hard.
torture.
That
It was
would,
torture, pure torture.
but you know what? For the readers, we see that torture and everything, and I think it helps us.
Good.
So
That made my day because honestly, every time I rewrote those, I wanted to take the book and just like throw it against the wall and give up. Like it, every time I read those, it dredges up all this past. It was really brutal to write all that down.
yeah. All right. So my next question,
Okay.
because I know you're like got other stuff to do here too.
No, I'm here.
All right. So what question would you have someone ask themselves if they didn't know that they were actually an addict, a sex?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. I think the first thing I would ask you, do you have toxic relationships in your life? Do you have people that create drama and that don't show up for you? Is there always like an inconsistency? Because that's the main thing. Sex and love addiction doesn't just affect love relationships. It affects family, it affects friendships, it affects every relationship in your life. So that's the first question I always ask somebody when I'm working with them, then when I'm speaking out of recovery. If you have drama in your life and relationships, that is the first sign that there's an intimacy problem, an unavailable problem, picking unavailable people, being unavailable yourself. And that's the main thing I would ask always.
Okay. All right. I totally agree. I do have a couple of friends that, I consider them kind of in a narcissistic relationship too, but they kind of all can go together. And these men don't want to show up. They want to send all these pictures and they want them to send pictures back and forth, and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes time to meeting up, they always come up with an excuse.
Yeah, because what the texting, what the DMing does is it's a form of fake intimacy. It's not real. You're actually not connected to the other person. You could talk to somebody over the phone and through text and actually not know them. You could talk to them for months and months and months, because when you're in person with another person, that's where the real intimacy occurs. And you can see who the person is, because on a text message, on a DM, on a FaceTime, you are not getting the real person. You are never going to get the real person.
Exactly. And that's what I keep telling them, like, just get rid of them. They're toxic. But
then I would tell your friends that are keeping them around is, where in you are you unavailable? Where in you are picking somebody that doesn't actually show up as a whole person? Because that's the thing to look at. You can't control what these guys are doing or these people are doing, but you control, why do I keep attracting these people that are not available?
Or why are they attractive to you?
That's true, but it's usually because in you are not available. In you doesn't actually want someone to show up for you, or you're lacking the self-love, or you're looking and trying to make this person be available so it gives you your self-worth.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I keep telling, there's two of them, and I keep telling them, I don't understand why you even text them back. Why don't you just block them and be done?
Send them my book. Send them my book. They can just read all about it. I mean, Tattoo Girl has that problem. Glam Girl, all those people in the book have that problem.
Right. Okay. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay. This one is, what advice would you give a significant other of that person that has the sex addiction to get them to seek help?
Yeah, I work with a lot of people that are the significant others of sex and love addicts. And the number one thing I say is, no matter how perfect you are, no matter how much you give to the relationship, it will never be enough. It has actually nothing to do with you. That when you are with a sex and love addict, they are incapable of completely committing because they don't have the tools. They didn't have the tools in the background. They're afraid of being abandoned, afraid of love, afraid of intimacy. So there is actually nothing wrong with you. You cannot be the most perfect partner, have the perfect body, all that stuff. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I always say is, You can't change who your partner is. You can only change how you react to them. So again, I always go back and work with them about where in you that doesn't think you're lovable are showing up for, wherein you are not setting boundaries and sticking to them, wherein you are taking crumbs from a sex and love addict that's not getting recovery, because it's like you're chasing the crumbs. And I try to make that really prevalent. And if that person's partner is not getting recovery and getting help, because sex and love addiction is the hardest addiction, because underneath a chemical addiction, underneath the other ones is usually a sex and love addict. And that's the like PhD of all the programs. So if they are not getting the help, they are not going to change. You cannot change the chemistry of your brain. It's a progressive brain disease. You cannot change it by yourself. Your addict brain cannot fix your addict brain. So if they're not getting help, I help them with the tools to get out of the relationship and not get into another one of those partnerships down the line.
Okay. So I work with alcohol and drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think is part of that really surprised me when I first read your book was like, oh my gosh, the pain that you went through with your withdrawn stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever heard of unless you actually go through it.
Yeah.
And I know that, you've talked about this with other people, but it, to me, it didn't seem the same because I've had these addicts in here that had to get medical help in order to go through there. And oh my gosh, when I read you laying on the floor crying and your husband couldn't come and be with you and stuff, my heart just went out to you.
Yeah, it was torture.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, but you had to go through it, and I get that you had to go through it to get where you are. So,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I work with a lot of addicts that had a chemical addiction, and I write about it in the book, I've worked with people that had heroin addictions, and they said it's easier to get rid of heroin than to get rid of her, to get over this relationship. It's easier to get off alcohol for 30 years, then go and work in sex and love addiction. Sex and love addiction is underneath. It's the core addictions as little kids that with the codependency, with the parent issues, we have that underneath, and we then put chemical addictions on top of it. So usually it's more painful and it's more raw. I felt like when I was going through my withdrawal, that was 9 months. I wrote about it. I kid you not,
Right.
9 months of crying every day. I wanted to zip myself out of my skin and crawl out of my skin. That's how painful it was for me.
And I read that and picked up on it and just broke my heart.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what have you read or listened to that inspired you to write your book? And I'm going to add to that so you can answer that. And if there is someone, who do you give that credit to?
Like I said, I never wanted to write a book. I wasn't interested in ever telling my story. I, am of service in my program, Sex and Love Addictions Anonymous. I've over almost 12 years now of recovery. So when I actually wrote it, it wasn't for me. It was to help the people that didn't understand, because what was happening is all these younger generation were coming into the program, they're impotent. Porn addiction is out of control. Masturbation is out of control. Young girls over sexualizing and being so disconnected from themselves. Young men over sexualized at a young age, looking at those images, are having so much trouble connecting. Then on top of it, the social media aspect where they're all so connected thinking, but they're actually disconnected. When that started occurring and we had 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds coming into the room, that is what actually made me want to share my story, that I'm a woman. I'm a sex and love addict. This doesn't define me as a person. It doesn't mean that I'm broken or alone, that a lot of people in our society, over 30 million people in the United States have this addiction. Over 38% of those are women. And that statistic was 7 years ago. So it's blown up, that there is Yeah, there is hope on the other side. So it wasn't really any other person. It was this younger generation that's struggling so much. And I'm like, wow, if I would have known about this when I was 20, I would have stopped hurting so many people. I would have stopped cheating. I would have stopped looking for the unavailable person because I'm unavailable. I would have stopped all the damaging that I was doing in my wake. And I think about it like the ripple effect. I would hurt someone, then they would go and hurt somebody else. And it's that stone where you throw a stone and it ripples out and it keeps going. And now I want to throw the stone and help people. Like if I help one person not damage someone else, then they won't damage someone else, and so on and so on. So it was about helping this younger generation get out of this horrible cycle with social media and all that sexuality that they don't understand. And I have a young son that's 3.5.
Right.
Like, I do not want my son to grow up in this world looking for outside things to fill him and give him his worth. So if I can do the work and help other people, that then helps my son live a better, healthier life, then I've done my job.
Right. I remember, and this, do you remember the movie Coyote Ugly?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I came home from work, and my son, who was at the time 10, was watching that movie with his dad. And I'm like,
Oh,
what are you doing? I was so upset. And he's like, my husband's like, what? And I said, he has no business at that age watching this. And he's
yeah.
like,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing. And I'm like, there is.
There
And
is.
then I found him like looking at some Playboy magazine. Well, it was when Farrah Fawcett's big thing came through.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, you don't do that. They thought it was cool, it was son and father. And I'm like, it's not cool.
It's not cool.
And so, that reminded me of that too, that you had talked about that. And I really believe that parents have to pay more attention
Yes,
as their children
completely.
are young and what they're seeing and hearing, and be open to them, so they feel like they can talk to you about it. So,
Yeah. And I think, I grew up with, hippier parents that showed the sexuality, and it
mhm,
totally desensitized me at a young age. And not that they didn't know that. And it's like, we have to be very cognizant that a young brain cannot handle violence, cannot handle sexuality, seeing images too young, because it does desensitize them. I mean, so many young boys I have worked with that are just so disconnected from their sexuality that they are not interested in first kisses or holding hands with someone, or that first, when you're interested, they don't feel that at all. And it's so sad to me that they're acting like adults before they're
right,
actually adults.
right, right. And I think that's something that we have to talk to them about at the right age.
Yeah.
Now, that was my older son. My youngest son, fortunately for me, my husband was out of town working a lot. He was in New York,
Hmm.
and I'm in Chicago. We live in Chicago, and so the youngest one, basically, I was raising by myself without just visiting dad once in a while.
Hmm.
Totally different. Totally different. He respects women. He respects himself. I taught him that, first of all, if you really, really care about the girl that you're with, he's 21 now, but
Hmm.
he's still the same way. If you care about that person, you have to understand how important that first time is
Yeah.
and to guys, a lot of times it doesn't mean anything. It is just
Yeah. Well, a lot of
affection.
women I know doesn't
And
mean
now it's a
anything.
lot of women, and
Yeah,
a
because
lot of
we wanted
women.
like power and
Yeah.
control over our bodies, especially if our bodies are used at such a young age or over sexualized. And we do it too, because society tells us, dance like this, wear
Exactly.
this, look like this, look older than you are, put on makeup. No, you have to look like this. And it's like, I got trapped in that. And that's where I found my power. I felt so powerless inside over the energy coming at me, that was the only way I could own it myself, is to have power and control over someone else,
Right.
that they could not impinge on me.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I wanted to get out to my listeners too, was I really hope that as parents, they will
Mhm.
start early,
Yeah,
you know,
it's important.
to help and to try to have a good relationship or get out of it so these kids don't have to see, you know, a bad relationship between their parents and not even know how to build their own.
Yeah. I mean, that's important to my husband and I too. You know, he's
Mhm.
in recovery for 33 years and we really try to model a healthy relationship for our son because our parents didn't model that for us because they didn't have the tools. So it's like, how do you communicate? How do you talk to each other? Are you showing each other affection and love, you know, not fighting dirty, how to, you know, not bring that toxicity or have those conversations in front of those young ears. That's not appropriate, you know, but
Correct.
also my, you know, my son, if we have a bit of a argument, he'll be like, are you guys happy? At 3.5, he's like, are you happy? And he gets louder. And we looked at
Um,
him the other day and I said, you don't need to worry if mommy and daddy are happy. Like you don't need to ask us if we're happy.
right.
We're having a conversation and we can disagree. We still love each other. We still love you. So it's teaching that there is conflict in the world, but you have to take care of it in a certain way. And he doesn't have to be
And
worried how other people are
right.
feeling.
And he doesn't have to worry that it's about him or that it's going to affect him.
Exactly.
And yep. Okay, so going on,
Hmm.
who I don't know why I chose this number,
Hmm.
but who are three people who have been the most influential to you?
Oh, geez. So I would have to say, you know, my husband is one of them.
Hmm.
He really helped me find a God, find, you know, my serenity, show up as my authentic self, the good, the bad, the ugly. He's seen all of it. And to have a partner stand next to you and not judge you for the things you've done in your life has been very beautiful. But like I've said, he could leave me and I'll be fine without him. He doesn't complete me as a person. And that's where I just want to make that very clear. Like he's not my soulmate. He didn't complete me. He didn't define me as a woman. I define myself. The other thing is my sponsor. He is a really hardcore badass. He likes to like mirror for me, like when I'll like call him and be like, I'm having a bad day. I just got rejected. I didn't get a job, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, poor Brianne. So sorry for you. Like he's just like puts me in my place, which I need it sometimes. You know, we all
Right.
have bad days, but we also have someone to be like, why don't you stop and be grateful for what is in your life? Look around, look at all the things you've done, look at how many people you've helped, look how much you love your son. And so that, and then another person that is just really meant a lot to me is my sister. She's like my partner in crime for life. Like she would help me bury the bodies. So, you know,
Aw.
and she's a strong woman and she is a writer herself and worked in the magazine world. So I just really take a lot of my strength and I can go to her being dyslexic and she, you know, points me in the right direction and all that. So, yeah.
So are you allowed to like, is there stuff I can look up on her and read?
Yeah, yeah, you can look her up. Her name's Stephanie.
I
Stephanie
did
Davis.
see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great human being. I always say she's a better version than me. She's like the nicer version than me,
Is she
but
younger or older than you?
she's older. She's 2 years older.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually am a little, okay, that's okay. I thought
Yeah.
there'd be one other person that you would bring up,
Who?
just
Tell me.
Gabrielle.
Oh yeah, Gabrielle's great. You know, she came in and I didn't know her at all. I met her through Jana Kramer and I was going through publishing and working with publishers, and she really pointed me in a different direction, like owning your own voice, putting your stuff out there, not waiting for someone to tell you yes. And she really walked me through, you know, we were strangers at first. She
Oh,
really
were you?
walked me through how to own my own project and own my own book. And I'm forever indebted to her. I mean, she's such a great woman. So yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that. She is a great, I have so many people in my life that I
I
need
know
to
you
thank. And
do. I
yeah.
know you do. That just, you know, obviously I've read her books and
Yes.
she did an amazing job. I had to get her audio too, you know, besides
Yeah,
the
she's
books and
great.
stuff. And she's very good at talking to everybody that she can. In fact, I think a little bit too much probably. I don't know how she's not overwhelmed.
Well, she
But
doesn't have kids right
that's
now. So
true.
there, I'm
That's
like, wait till you
true.
have a kid. We were
That's
hanging
true.
out and I was like, wait, you'll have such limited time. You have to like work everything in.
Well, and I think somebody on one of her podcasts, I don't remember who it was, but told her she needed to like actually put her in her shoes and said, you need to hire somebody else to look at some of those things. You know, you need to
Mhm.
take more time for yourself. And I don't remember which one it was, but I remember hearing it. Anyway, so what is one
What?
common myth about your profession that you would want to debunk?
Common myth about my profession that being a Hollywood actress, making
Mhm.
money, having a career is going to complete you as a person. I think a lot of people think if they have a number of followers, likes, people that, are fans, money in the bank, the house, the car, all that stuff is like going to make them complete is like the biggest myth ever. I mean, like I say, I work with so many A-list celebrities, huge people in the entertainment business that I obviously cannot name, and they have everything and their insides are empty.
Empty.
So empty completely. And they don't understand. They strive for this and get it. And then it's even more debilitating and traumatic for them because it doesn't connect. Their outsides
Right.
don't connect to their insides. And that's more painful. And that's what I try to tell people. It is easier to live on the street as an addict and be in the dirt and the chaos because that's how you actually feel inside. It is harder on your spirituality and your emotions to live in this like pristine, glamorous world and be so empty because you are so empty. So that would be the main thing is like, do not come to Hollywood if you are empty because it will amplify your emptiness. I mean, we see all the addicts in Hollywood that have everything and then commit suicide, do drugs.
Right.
It's just so it's very, very sex and love addiction is very rampant in Hollywood.
That I'm getting that now.
Yeah.
And don't you think people? I remember as a child thinking, "Oh, I want to be an actress. It's so
Mhm.
glamorous." And I'll just briefly tell you, I ended up. This is so long ago, so it'll tell my age. But I was actually in the very first movie that Renee Zellweger was in.
Mm.
And it took place in San Francisco, and it was called The Bachelor, which it didn't make it.
Mhm.
Like Rotten Tomatoes, I think is like 8%. Oh my gosh. But I had to be there.
Mhm.
Like we were there 3 months and I had to run up and down the streets in barefoot in a long wedding dress and, cold and
Mhm.
hours of reshooting. And I realized technology has changed since then,
Oh no, you have to reshoot. You have to do that. And I think with Secret
but
Life
it's
of a
not so
Hollywood,
glamorous,
no, and that's what in the book
Glamorous is when you go to the red carpet. That's glamorous. But
yeah, that's not what Hollywood is
but
about. I mean, that's
no.
few and far between. And that's why I think in the book, Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict, that I really wanted it to portray the world of Hollywood from a working actress, not the A-list
Right.
celebrity that has everything given to them, where you have to pound the pavement, where you are working 14 hours a day, waiting for your call. If you're number 5 or below on a call sheet, it's like your life is different than the A-list celebrity. And so I
Exactly.
really wanted to bring the audience into that world.
And I think you did. You
Thank
really did.
you.
Okay, now this one's going to throw you off.
Okay.
We're almost done. Okay, so if you were in my shoes,
Hmm.
what would have you asked yourself that I didn't?
Oh my God. I don't, let me see. What would I have asked me? Um, I don't think there is a question that I would think that you should ask me. I can't think of one. There, you stumped me. I have no idea.
I actually stumped you, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, if there isn't anything, okay. Okay, and then where can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, please reach out to me if anything I've said, if you are interested in sex and love addiction, how to look and see if you are one. There's 40 questions you can answer on SLAA, 40 self-diagnosed questions.
Now,
You
how do you
know,
get on SLAA?
type in Google SLAA
That's it.
40 self-diagnosed questionnaire. It will come right up. You reach out to me on Instagram at the Brianne Davis or TikTok, the Brianne Davis. Go to secretlifenovel.com. If you want to read any of the articles I've written for Cosmo or Daily Beast or The Drill or Self, all those, or interviews I've done, or if you want to get a signed copy of the book, or go to Amazon for the Audible, Kindle, and the book. It's Secret Life of a Hollywood Sex and Love Addict. It's the longest title known to man.
Yeah, it is. And have you heard my story of like how many times I had to buy the book and I got the audio and all that? So,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. Okay, so we've got that part. This is going to go back to your career as an actress, but and it's very brief. What
Uh-huh.
is one of your favorite movies or films that you would like our listeners to go back and watch?
Well, I really loved being on Lucifer. The part of Detective Dancer was such a fun role. She was like five different characters in
Mhm.
one. So every scene, I got to be a different person, which was so exciting. I love working on that set. One of my favorite movies I did that not many people know about is called Synchronicity. It's a sci-fi movie, romance movie, and I just love the character Abby. She's like a hard badass journalist, a sci-fi writer, and I just loved playing her.
Okay.
And then I think another one I loved
Now,
playing was Prom
Lucifer, I
Night.
believe, is on Netflix still,
Yeah,
right?
Lucifer's on Netflix. It's season 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Synchronicity, I think, is on Hulu now.
Okay.
Six on History that I was on for 2
Right.
seasons.
Right.
Lena Graves is like one of the sweetest, kindest characters I've ever played. It was season 1 was really difficult to play while I was going through personal stuff. So I'm really proud of that show. It's on Hulu now. It was on A&E and History Channel. So yeah,
Okay.
there's a lot.
So one last thing before we
Yes.
end. So, would you tell our listeners
Mhm.
um, what is or has been Brianna's biggest life struggle?
I think my biggest life struggle is getting rid of the compare and despair. I've grown up with that character defect, and that's why there's a whole chapter dedicated to it. Chapter 7 in the book is how I get through the compare and despair, comparing my lives to others, comparing others' outsides to my insides, never fully having my feet in the present, always in the future or in the past, comparing to others and myself too. So I think that's my biggest life struggle. That's the thing that can take me to my knees every time I get sucked back in. So every morning I hit my knees and ask God, my God, to relieve me of that character defect. And every night I thank God for giving me another day and gratitude for the things that happened today. So I think that's like the main, my husband says that's the one that takes you to your knees every time. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I know you've got other things to do, so
Yes.
I thank you so much for putting up with all this, the schedule changing and then here
Oh,
on
thank you
doing all
too.
this, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, well,
And
thank you for having me.
oh, you're so welcome. And you have a great day. Take care of
Okay.
that little boy.